This video will teach you how to create something similar to what we're seeing here in Google Images. We're calling it a flat landscape, and we're creating this in Adobe Illustrator. So this is one that I just started last hour. I was just kind of messing around. We're going to start with a new document. If you start out at home here, we can just go to New File. We're going to create a new artboard. So in Illustrator, it's called an artboard, not a canvas. And the width is 11, the height is 8.5. We're going to make sure we're set to inches, not pixels or points, and then we'll click Create. And this is going to give us the right dimensions for our landscape. So first off, we're going to start with our background. And the background is going to have a gradient to it. So a lot of these have gradients. You can see how it fades down into a different color. You're allowed to choose whatever colors you want, but you will need to use a gradient. And I'll show you how to do that. So because it's a square, or not a square, but a rectangle, we can use the rectangle tool. So we're actually going to start with the shape tool. You don't need to use the pen tool for this. I'm going to click and drag. And right now I have a black stroke on. I'm going to turn that stroke off. So then as long as I have that selected, I click off. So that means I have no outline. If I click on this white box now, this is going to be my fill. So this is set to solid color right now. If I want a gradient, I need to actually select gradient right here. And then in order to edit the gradient, I want to make sure I have the gradient selected right here. So if I bring this over and out, you can see it's just two colors right now. Now it's kind of going the wrong way, because if I look at the examples, it starts out generally dark and then it gets lighter and lighter as it goes down. Kind of think of this as like a sunset. So we're going to have to change the angle. I'm going to click right here and we'll go to 90 degrees, and that brings my dark color all the way down. Now I don't want it to be black and white. I want to be able to edit the colors. So I can double click right here, maybe choose a purple or a dark blue or whatever color you want for your kind of night sky maybe. And then I could double click on the other point here, and maybe I'll turn it to, let's go to like something like that, kind of a orangey peach color. All right, that looks good. You can also choose some defaults here and then play around with that, and playing around with the angle will help with that. If you want more colors, you can also add colors too. You can adjust the gradient like this. So if you need to switch it around, you can kind of mess around with it. I'm not thinking that's a huge issue right now. I'm probably going to just leave it as is, but feel free to kind of play around with it and editing the gradient and messing around with it. It's kind of fun to mess around with. Okay, so there's my background. We'll just call this, my background. Over here in the layers, I'm just going to get rid of some of these extra things I don't need right now. All right, so gradients over there. Over here, my layers, you can see this is all in one layer right now. I'm going to go ahead and just make a new layer because I like to have, my background set. I'll go ahead and lock it in place. I went ahead and I locked that layer there. You just click on the little empty space. It's not very intuitive, but that's how you lock a layer. And now I'm going to move on to the next layer, you could call, of my landscape. So if I'm doing something kind of like, actually this one's probably a better example. So generally when we're talking about atmospheric perspective, things farther away tend to appear lighter than things close to us. Whoops, atmospheric perspective. There we go. Pull this up. All right. So this is a real thing. This happens, in photography. You can see how things closer to us appear darker, and then they get lighter and lighter as they go off into the distance. This is another good example of that. So when we're working on this project, we want to think about values, right? So whatever color we choose for our landscape, we're going to work with the values of that. And one thing I like to do is I'll actually use my brush tool to create swatches. Whenever you're using the brush tool in Illustrator, you're going to be using your stroke. So stroke is here. Since stroke is turned off, I'm going to just go ahead and select a solid color. And let's just start with kind of a medium. I'm going to do orange, I think. We'll start with kind of a medium orange color. And I'm just going to click and drag to make a little swatch here. I'm just coloring in a little blob. We're going to delete this eventually, but that's my blob. Okay. Now I need to create the values of that blob. So I'm going to go and double click on that again. I have my light values, my dark values. So let's go ahead and create a couple dark values. I'll do maybe a dark orange here. This is just going to help us with doing the atmospheric perspective. Double click on that again. I'll grab another dark value. It's kind of this dark, almost brown color. And I'm going to choose my lighter values. I'll maybe do like something like that. Kind kind of a peachy tone. And then maybe a really light cream color. So that just kind of gives us a starting point. You could do as many of these as you want. I'm just going to start with 5 because I think that's a good place to be. And that way I can just grab those colors anytime I need them with my eyedropper tool. So by clicking, see how it changes over here? I'm easily able to change that simply by using the eyedropper. I don't have to go back in and try and type in a bunch of hex codes, right? Okay. So our next step is going to be creating my first kind of, we'll call it the mountain layer. And we're going to be using a pretty light tone for this one. So I'm going to grab my pen tool, and this can be whatever mountains or, you know, mesa backgrounds you want. I'm just going to do kind of some random hills here. Remember to click and drag if you're creating any curves. You don't have to have curves everywhere, but you probably will have some kind of curves. Whoops, that one looks weird. There we go. Kind of like a rocky outcrop, thinking kind of like a desert landscape. Okay, I'm gonna then, once I get to the edge, I'm gonna go down, click on the corners, make sure it's nice and square to complete my shape. Now, right now there's no fill on this shape, so let's go ahead and click on fill. We're gonna choose gradient. We need to edit this gradient again. So this, we're gonna flip it. Let's do that first. Oops, I'm just gonna do 90 because I want it to fade from top to bottom. And then this top color, I can use my eyedropper here. Let's select the light there, okay? And then the bottom color, we'll do maybe the next value. Or maybe I'll do orange. Yeah, I kind of like that. All right, not a bad start. I'm gonna turn the stroke off. I don't want an outline on that, so let's turn that off. Okay, nice, I like it. Anytime you want to adjust, so if you are in your shape or your whatever you created with the pen, if you're looking at it and you're like, ooh, I don't really like that, grab your direct selection tool and you can actually adjust. Whoops, helps if you actually click on the point. There we go. And you can move that around. So I could maybe like pull that out a little bit. This one's kind of bothering me too. Maybe kind of do something. It's a little better. Looks a little more natural. This one's kind of being funny too. Yeah. All right, I think that works. So direct selection is just the white cursor. The regular one is just here. That's not going to let you edit the points individually, but this one will. You just have to click on the point. You can even adjust the handles. So if you want to adjust that, the direction of things, you can kind of play around with that if you want to. Okay, there is my first, we'll just call it the mountain layer. Now we're going to do another mountain slash, if you want to call it mesa or whatever, you know, next part of the horizon. Go back so you can see some examples here. Oops. Let's do this one. Here we go. So the next one. All right. So the next one will be probably this color here. We're going to grab the pen tool again, and I'll just do some more hills. Maybe I'll do more of like a mesa, so more of like a flat horizon line. Up a little bit just to make it look more varied. You don't want it too perfect. Again, clicking on those points. Okay, I'm going to adjust my gradient. If you don't see your gradient, you might have to click on gradient. Mine is right here. I'm going to use my selection tool to just click on that, and then this will let me edit the gradient. And then let's go in and adjust the colors a little bit. So let's grab this one for the top. And then this one, we'll do, whoops, grab that. We'll grab maybe this next one. Whoops, and I just realized I'm on the stroke by accident. Let's actually make sure you do the fill. Okay, maybe. All right. Grab that. There we go. Wasn't paying attention. Okay. All right. Make sure to turn off your stroke. Okay. So there's the next one. All right, next one, kind of the same thing. Let's see what else they did down here. They started creating some cactuses too. Let's do a few hills. You're gonna want a minimum of 3 horizon lines. So that's what we're creating here. This is my third one. This next one we know is gonna be darker. And I might even adjust this one to be a little bit darker because I think it might be a little too light for my background. But you can do that anytime independently. I have all of these layers or all of these shapes created on layer 2. My background is on layer 1 and it's locked. So this one here, let's go into our gradient. Make sure we're on the gradient. Select my color over here. We'll grab the, oops, nope, didn't want to do that. There we go, double click. And let's grab my orange. Down here, we will choose my darker color. So yeah, looking at it, I think I'm going to adjust this gradient for sure. I think this one's too light, and especially just comparing it to some of the other ones, I think it's a little too light. So we're going to adjust it a little bit. Let's do this to start with. And then this one, we'll maybe do that one. Yeah, I like that better. It should be toned down a little bit because it's kind of a night sky up here. This second one, I'm going to do the same thing. Start orange. We'll work our way down to darker color. And then this one, we'll start this darker tone. Whoops. I think I have that already selected. Whoops, come on. Let's do something like that. And then this one, we could even probably just play around with that, make it a little bit darker. Let's see. Yeah. That's not too bad. It's a good place to start. Okay, and I can always adjust that later. I might actually adjust my background right now. I'm gonna unlock that. I'm gonna adjust this so we can see more of, there we go. That's a little better. I like that a lot. This one I'm also going to adjust. I think I'm gonna increase the color of this one. Let's just increase a little bit. There we go. I like that. Maybe. I got 2 in there, that's why. Let's delete one of those. There we go. Perfect, I like it. Now we're gonna add a sun. So we're gonna put a sun in the sky. I'm gonna right click on my rectangle tool and grab the ellipse. And from here, I'm just gonna hold the shift key to click and drag a circle. You can make this as big as you want, but I think this is pretty good for now. And from here, we're gonna change the gradient. We're gonna choose a radial gradient. And once again, we're gonna change some colors. You can just click and drag and adjust if you want more than one color in there. So I just did 3, but you can just do 2 if you want. The inside, we're gonna do probably like a white or maybe a yellow, a light yellow. I like that. The outside, probably kind of an orange. Actually, the way it looks is pretty good, but you can change the color if you need to. Now I'm gonna click on that circle, and I want this to be behind that layer. So this is where you're gonna have to right click on the shape. We're gonna go to Arrange, Send to Back. So now it's at the back because it's on this layer, and I can move it wherever I want. So maybe I want it down here or up here, you know, play around with placement. You can always move it around later. Kind of liking it, maybe. I think I kind of like it over here, actually. Now is a good time to do File Save. We'll say Save on Computer. Call this Flat Landscape. Okay. And click OK. So that's going to get you started. In the next video, I will show you how to add some extra things like the cactuses, any kind of silhouettes, some shooting stars in the sky, some just kind of extra details to make it look extra good.